afternoon, guys. Today we are going to be, we will be explaining how text structures contribute to the meaning and identify the text structure, whether it be chronology, comparison, or cause and effect in an informational text. Before we begin, I want to break down this benchmark. What do you think it means for something to contribute? If something contributes to the text, what does it do? Davion, what do you think a contribution means, or it means to contribute?
It means
It's okay. You wanna have Micah help us out? Help us out here, Micah. Okay, identify could mean that you're contributing to our conversation, but the word contribute means to add to. How does our text features add to the meaning of a text? It's the same way that I would ask you, how does the timeline add to the meaning of the text? What new information does a text feature provide that helps you understand how the text is organized?
It helps add to the meaning of the story.
It does. It helps them add to the meaning of in any informational text. Just a quick review. Our text features are where? They're along the back wall. It's very important for us to know our text features so that when we see it, we recognize it, and we utilize them. This anchor chart is listed in the back of our classroom, but you all have anchor charts in your journals that you can use. Remember, I like to refer to the text structures in third grade as the 3 C's. They stand for
Comparison, chronology, and cause and effect.
comparison, chronology, and cause and effect. Comparison means when you look at two different texts or two different pieces of information and you're looking at any similarities or differences. Chronology, I like to think of as chronology. And it helps me remember that it's almost like sequence, which you learned in second grade, or steps or order, right?
Yeah.
And then the last one, cause and effect relationships, explain what happened as a effect and why it happened, which is the cause. What happened and why it happened. Today we're going to apply these skills to African American and women get the right to vote. Let's go ahead and get our magazines open to this text. Before we begin, can someone remind me, what's my topic? One word. What are we talking about, and what have we been discussing over time?
Voting.
Voting. Voting is our topic today, and we're going to continue to find out pertinent information of how voting laws changed over time. Let's go ahead and look at African Americans and the right to vote and reread this section. It's paragraphs 1 through 5. Let's begin.
In most states, only white men who own land could vote in 1868, the 14th Amendment. It says that African Americans have the same rights as others.
Let's take a pause there. We found out some very important information. What information have you found?
That African Americans cannot vote.
The African Americans were prevented from voting. And then the last sentence tells us, however, some states tried to stop African Americans from having those rights. Before I go any further, I want to take a step back because I always tell you, don't skip the heading. The heading is in bold print. Put your finger on it. What does your heading say?
African Americans in the right to vote.
Those headings help you make predictions and connections to the text. And then before we start reading, we were really supposed to, strong readers always, they always preview the text. They take time to look at any text features that are there. Which text features do we have today? What do we have?
That one is white.
We have a timeline. And what else? We have a heading, right?
The date. And the photograph.
And we also have photographs, timelines, headings, and photographs. And there's a caption that's listed on page 21 in blue. Let's pick up at paragraph 2. Even though doesn't matter when it comes to being allowed to vote. Then some states added voting taxes while others made people pass tests to vote. Okay, so we found out a few things happened, once African Americans were told that they could vote. Which two things, happened that prevented them from being able to vote in certain states? Certain states wouldn't allow it because they required.
Because they were going to be white and they had to be
Okay, but then once African Americans were freed and they were citizens and could vote, there were things that were put in place to prevent them from voting. One of those things,
voting taxes.
voting taxes or poll taxes, which means that they were required to pay money. The other thing that was put in place, they were required to be tested before voting. Paragraph 3. These states continued to make voting difficult for Black Americans. These states insisted they had the right to do this. By the 1960s, however, many Americans thought these states were wrong. Citizens fighting for the right to vote were getting hurt and even losing their lives. Although it's often dangerous, people marched in the streets to demand their right to vote. Volunteers helped Black Americans sign up to vote. And the 5th paragraph, the 24th Amendment. Then in 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, which protects the rights of Black Americans and others to vote.
Johnson said millions of Africans are denied because of their right to vote
So there was a law that was put in place that would ensure that African American citizens were allowed to vote. What's the name of that law? I mean, who put that law in plan?
Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson.
Here are our graphic organizers for today. We'll be working on lesson 4. I'm sorry, we'll be working on lesson 7. Please and thank you. Here you go. Lesson 7. We're on lesson 7, guys. If you flip it over, it says we're going to explain how the timeline contributes to the meaning. Let's take a second to look at our graphic organizer. The first thing it asks us is, what is the text event that's not included in the timeline? What's something, remember the graphic organizer that I taught you, T plus T and new? What does the T plus T stand for? Timeline plus text. What's something that's on the timeline that's also mentioned in the text? And then what's new? What does new mean? What's new? New information that's not mentioned on the timeline. This is how we can determine what new information does the timeline contribute to the text. is if we do what I've taught you before. Let's take a look at the timeline on page 20. What's the title of it?
Voting milestones African American men.
Voting milestones African American men. And the heading or the title of that timeline does help me to distinguish what we're going to be reading about on the timeline. Do you think that we'll be reading about women?
No.
Why not? Why do you
Because it says men.
it does say men? Why do you think the author chose to include the timeline? What do you think the author would include the timeline?
So it could give us more information.
Okay, we can use it to get additional information. Michael, why would authors use, Paige, why would authors include timelines? Why would the author include a timeline? To show the meaning of the text, okay, to show, what else could a timeline show you? New information, what else? Timeline takes you through history or steps or time. Okay. Let's take a second to go back and review the text or review the timeline. And as we read each event, we're going to decide, is this new information or old information? What's the first event on your timeline?
1865 and when land can 17 vote in most states.
What's the date? 1776. And the caption that goes with it says, only free white men who own land can vote in most states. Do you recall if this is something mentioned in the text?
Yes.
It absolutely is. Underline it in the text. Go back. Prove it. On your timeline, what do you think we're going to write? New or T plus T?
T plus T.
Absolutely, let's do that.
Right here.
On your timeline.
Where's
your timeline?
Right here. First in your book. Oh, right here.
On your timeline. So remember, we read the first event that's listed on the timeline. And it says,
Only free white men who own land can vote in most states.
was this something mentioned before? It was. So we've already proven that it's mentioned in the text. So now, am I gonna write T plus T for timeline plus text or new?
T plus T.
Okay, and that's where I write it.
Oh.
And as we go through, I want you guys to break up into groups so that you can determine each event, and then we'll go in and add it to our graphic organizer. You may begin. Nash, why don't you come work with me? Okay. Nash, Jordan. Yeah. Nash and Jordan. You wanna come over here? You ladies. We can get schools in a bit. Let's think about the next event. Let's read it. It says, what year?
1787.
What does the detail tell us?
U.S.
Constitution.
Constitution leaves it to the states to decide who can vote. Most states decide that only white men who own land can vote.
Okay, do you remember, and if we look back in our passage, is there any point which it tells us that states decided who would be able to vote and who couldn't.
Yes.
Which paragraph is that mentioned in?
Paragraph 1.
Paragraph 1, and it says, and we have to prove it, that's where our conversation comes in. What does it say? Come on, Nash, we're here.
African Americans have the same rights as other citizens.
Okay, so that discusses the U.S. Constitution, and keep going. It says African Americans have the same rights as other citizens. Let's read from here.
However, some states try to stop African Americans from having those rights. From having the rights.
Okay, so at this point, I have to ask myself, is this new information or is this something that was mentioned in both the timeline and the text?
Both timeline and
So I want to make sure that I annotate and write timeline plus text. Yeah, so that I can know that. You have a pencil?
Yes.
Where is it?
It's here.
Here you go.
There we go.
I want to make sure that I write that timeline plus text. Now, let's look at the third detail. What date?
1868.
And it says the 14th Amendment.
Becomes part of the U.S. Constitution.
Former enslaved persons become American citizens. Now, do we find anything that mentions the 14th Amendment? Where is it mentioned?
In paragraph 1.
Paragraph 1 also adds that the 14th Amendment was added to the Constitution and that they have the same rights as citizens. That does match that former enslaved persons become American citizens. So is this new information or timeline plus text?
Timeline plus text.
So let's annotate that. And the last entry
1870
says
The 14th Amendment says an African citizen cannot be kept from voting because of the color of his skin.
now, does the text mention that?
Oh, no, that's a hard question.
That is a harder question, but I think that you can that you can use your skills to return to the text and determine what information is mentioned and what's not. This is called proving your work. And then remember how many paragraphs is listed under that heading. Which paragraphs goes under the heading African Americans and the right to vote?
For 1870?
Wait, so we're mentioning how many headings so that Jordan can realize that there's more than just paragraph 1 that he's gonna have to look at.
Number 2.
Number 2 and number 4.
Yes, numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do you know why we wouldn't read over on paragraph 6?
Because there's doesn't talk
It's a new heading.
There's a new heading there. And a new heading means if I were to use my connections and predictions, I could predict that this is going to talk about
something else, something different.
something different. And that's all. Okay, so when we return, we will be completing our graphic organizer to make sure that we have a complete understanding of how text features help contribute to the organization of the text.